Oh yes, this is the Hardcore Marketing Show. I'm Casey Cheshire, your host for this epic journey. And today's show, sponsored by Cheshire Impact, on a mission to help people maximize their use of Pardot and Salesforce. CheshireImpact.com. Bam. Hey everyone. Before we get started with the show, I'm excited to announce two things. First is that my book, Marketing Automation Unleashed, is now live on Amazon. So go get it. The second thing is we have a new sponsor, Qualified.com. I'm going to tell you about them in the next couple seconds here, and also how you can get a free copy of my book thanks to them. So who are these people? Well, Qualified is the #1 live chat and chatbot platform for Salesforce and Pardot. Sales reps can have real-time, personalized conversations with who? Your hottest website visitors. So I want you to know, I don't just partner with anyone. I genuinely love these guys. And the platform, we use it at my company. Our sales team loves it. We've closed a lot of deals based on it. Had a lot of great conversations with prospects too. So, a lot of marketing these days is what? Hurry up and wait, right? Fill out this form. And then if we pass you over to sales, maybe you'll swap 6 emails with them to find a good time to talk. But what if a prospect is doing research right now and they would chat now? Why not give them the opportunity? So the best part is your company actually decides what leads are worth a live chat. There's a lot of noise out there. You don't want to talk to everyone. So Qualified actually connects to Salesforce and Pardot, and it's able to pull in lead and contact information so you can specifically know if you're talking to a VIP, a VP, a decision maker. It's really kind of like magic. Now, if you don't know who someone is, well, what happens then, Casey? Well, that's when the bots come in handy. Chat bots can then ask questions to further qualify a lead, find out if maybe this is someone you do want to talk to. And they can book meetings while your sales team is out. And they can wake up the next morning with a bunch of meetings on their calendar. Now, here's the promo. If you are a company that wants to give your sales team this ability, right, to be able to talk to decision makers right when they're on your website, do this. Go to qualified.com and start a chat, right? They use their own tool, of course. Start a chat. Tell them that Casey sent you. If you have Salesforce Pardot, when you schedule and then do a demo, they will send you a free copy of my book, Marketing Automation Unleashed. Not bad, right? Well, it's only while supplies last. So hop on this thing today. And that's it for sponsors. Let's get to the show.
All right, that's it. Now we're live. We're crushing this thing. I got to tell you, you're listening to this and you have no idea, but I got to tell you, this is going to be one of the best podcasts ever that I've ever done because my guest today is awesome. She is just full of energy, and the topics we're going to talk about, amazing. She's a keynote speaker, a best-selling author. She's a brand guru, a brand impresario, evangelist. I saw this. I was born to brand, and so were you. I'm on a mission to inspire 1 million brands, to build brands that sell, and all sorts of craziness. And the two best-selling books that I mentioned, Irrational Loyalty, which I just got to read based on the name, and 2, Branding is Sex. Hello. That's the kind of podcast you're about to listen to. Let's get into this. The CEO and founder of Soul Marketing, Deb Gabor, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you so much for that introduction.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been waiting my whole life for Oprah to introduce me and say, it's Deb Gabor. I almost feel what you did.
It's Deb Gabor.
Yeah, exactly. And you get a podcast, and you get a podcast, yes. And you get a podcast. But that was an incredible introduction. Thank you. I really appreciate that.
I mean, if you like, I can send you a video clip so you can use it as an alarm clock in the morning. Just hear my positive awakening of you every morning. People have done,
or, my iPhone ringtone, all those things. So yeah,
let's go, right? As your ringtone. Yeah. So let's get into it. The theme for today, this is a marketing leadership series, but we're talking brand. We're smashing myths. We're like killing misconceptions. So I want to pass you this. This is an imaginary Thor's hammer. That's because I have the real one, but it's in the office. So here's the imaginary Thor's hammer. Take that, smash for me some kind of marketing myth, bogus strategy, misconception that just drives you crazy, and you got to set the record straight.
Yeah, I'm here to tell you that segment marketing is dead.
Oh God, it's dead. Okay, it's dead? Like dead? Like we should.
For brands. For brands, let's say like
Okay.
having a brand that shows up different in different market segments is bullshit,
Really?
right? Yeah, because the best brands in the world are the ones that aim the brand at this singular, ideal, archetypal customer, a customer who is most highly predictive of the organization's success. Like the person who the brand is perfectly made for.
Mm.
And if there's one point in brand strategy that I get the most pushback on, it is the idea our brand can't be made for one single person. We serve men, we serve women, we serve
Right.
companies of this size, we serve companies of this size. And really the misconception is that you're aiming your brand at a demographic target, or if you're a B2B brand, a firmographic target. I'm here to tell you that you have to aim your brand, regardless of who you are, at a human being. So even if it's B2B stuff, and I work mostly with B2B technology companies and manufacturing distribution, stuff like that, you know, the people who are making these buying decisions are not nameless, faceless automatons.
Right.
They're actual human beings and they want to get laid. And so, right? I got your attention, didn't I?
There we have it. I'm listening.
Yeah. Yeah. And they want to be a hero in their own story. And the best brands in the world are the ones that become part of that person. And so, you know, people, the biggest argument that I get from people, it is the most controversial area of my work, is when people are like, I refuse to believe that I have to aim my brand at a singular ideal human being. I look at brands like, for instance, Nike. Nike is aiming their brand at the inner elite athlete inside of all of us, right? Whether they're selling athletic shoes to recreational runners who happen to be middle-aged women in Austin, Texas, like myself, or they're selling golf clubs to, you know, dudes in Massachusetts, or they're selling to the NFL or the NCAA, or, you know, an elite runner who is getting ready to, you know, do 100-mile run or something like that. The brand is the brand is the brand is the brand is the brand. And everything they do ladders up to this singular archetypal human being that anchors that. Now, do I look just like that elite athlete? Am I a 19-year-old guy who, you know, who is at the peak of fitness, who could be a pro athlete? No, I'm not. But deep inside, they've done a really good job of stimulating an inner dialogue that makes me aspire to what the benefits of being like that would be about. So is that good for smashing a widely held institutional myth?
Yeah, but we got to dive into this because, like, hot damn, I mean, it's kind of like number one is like segmenting, right? You think, well, you got to divide up and conquer, and you got to speak to, you know, I think you mentioned this too, the demographics, the firmographics. Sometimes, especially in the B2B world, we're like, well, I've got buyers across healthcare and tech and financial services, and we kind of just zero in on the finances. But if you're saying you got a single architect, are we saying we get rid of all those other industries, or are we surpassing them? Like, what's the take?
So what we're doing actually is, instead of dividing, we're multiplying, right?
Okay.
So what we're looking for across all those industries, and you laid out, you know, some of the top ones, you know, financial services, healthcare, you know, retail, distribution, manufacturing, whatever, technology, et cetera, et cetera. There is a human being inside the company, the ideal company inside of every one of those industries that your brand is perfectly made for, whether they're in fintech, whether they're in, you know, manufacturing, whether they're in like deep tech, whatever they are, there is a human being in there that is perfectly suited for your brand, right? And the goal of figuring out who that person is to kind of take a walk a mile in their shoes. So it's more than a demographic profile. Usually it starts like this. It's like, what is the ideal job title? And sometimes that, you know, that differs by market segment, but usually it's a person who is in a particular kind of role. So what's their role, right? Yeah. Who is that person? Who is most likely to fill that role? Is it a 45-year-old man? And when I say this, I mean, it's like, it's a 45-year-old man and his name is Chris. Right. Yeah. And Chris has attitudes and behaviors and, you know, psychographics, and he has goals. Like, what's his goal? Is your ideal customer somebody who maybe had previously a bad experience with software vendors, right? And you exist there to like change his mind about that because you have a completely different business model that potentially honors that experience and elevates that for him so you can create that condition of irrational loyalty. But the process of figuring out who that ideal customer is one of the most powerful things that an organization can do. And in my experience doing this, I know you're not going to believe this, I've been doing this for 30 years, but in my experience of doing this, because I know I look like I'm not even 30 years old, right? Especially on Zoom. But in my experience,
here.
In my experience doing this, what I have seen is that the organizations that scaled the most rapidly and the most profitably were the ones who got focused on this. And the reason why is because if you can create an actual profile, and I make people draw it, that's what's really unpopular about it, but an actual profile of who their ideal customer is, give that person a name, bring that person to your meetings, talk about that person, speak about that person, speak to that person when you're creating your strategy and your messaging and your marketing and all of that kind of stuff. And for my company, her name is Lindsay, and she's based on a real client. The organizations that do that, what it does for them is it solves the problem of we're working with customers that we're over servicing.
Okay.
We're bleeding money. We're bleeding margin.
Mm-hmm.
We have, like, for me, the way it plays out is that people sit at their desks like this, and that, they have tufts of hair coming out of their heads, right?
Yeah.
So, they talk about the 80-20 rule, right? That 80% of your revenue should come from 20% of your customers.
Yeah.
What if you took that and that 20%, you took it and you multiplied those 20% of the best customers across your entire business? Can you imagine how much more rapidly you can scale? So knowing who that ideal customer is and having an actual picture, an image of who that person is and a likeness, and knowing their story and knowing what's important to them, knowing what makes them sit up at night and sweat ice cubes, like their hopes, fears, dreams, desires, what makes them feel sexy, what their story is, what they want for their lives, their careers, all that kind of stuff means you can aim your brand directly at them. And more importantly, it helps you say no to shit. And you and I know, because we run services businesses and we serve other businesses through services businesses, like, it's really hard to say no. In fact, my company's number one core value is yes and. Right?
Yeah.
And
improv. Hello.
Yes. So yes and, like, even if it's a no, like, sometimes I tell people, like, we have a saying at work, it's yes and fuck no, Deb 316. But even when we say no, it's in a yes kind of way. So it's really easy to overservice clients, especially in a services business. We want to please everybody. We want to make everybody a hero. The having the ideal customer profile is a hedge against that. Like, I can always refer to, is this particular client, do they fit this profile, like, at least 75%? Am I going to lose my shirt by, knowing that this person needs a lot more assistance? Or, for our company, it's really important that whoever we're working with is able to actually use what we do for them. Because, there are marketing agencies that are all about, like, just putting the train on the tracks and keeping it there, right? And they take orders and they're like, I need, the client says, I need to this or I need to that. I know that in order for us to do our best work, people are coming to us. Like, the unique thing about us is they get a kick in the ass. They get driven, they get led. They are, they're going to do hard things. Like, core value number 2 is we do hard things. Right? The work of branding is really, really hard. I need the right kinds of customers who I know also we do hard things.
Right.
So, like I said, it's unpopular because people have a really hard time getting their head around this idea that my brand is made for one, spectacularly qualified individual human being. But branding is strategy, and strategy is about choice.
I am sold on this concept, the fact that it multiplies and you're restricting some, but you're really just eliminating the non-profitable things, the things that aren't a fit, where you're not serving them well. Could you talk me through sort of the practical steps of how do you isolate this? Because it seems like that's the hard part, where people probably just, like, give up and email industries instead because it just seems easier.
Yeah. So, one of the places to look, if you're an established business, one of the places to look is, like, look at your financial results, right? Look at the clients who have, the highest retention rates, that have the highest customer lifetime value, the client relationships that are growing, right? That's the first place to look and try to understand, like, what are the characteristics that the people, the purchase influencers in those businesses, what do they have in common, right? I also recommend that you do some discovery work, and that means you go out and actually ask people, not just your own customers or your own clients, but ask other people who sort of fall into the realm of people who would be acceptors of what you are selling, and ask them, what's important to you when you make a decision about blank? What are the brands that you think are doing a really good job at delivering on those attributes? What attributes do you perceive my brand has? What do you think is the uniqueness about my brand? What am I not delivering to you that you think you need? What are you not getting today from your current vendor, your current provider, all of that kind of stuff? And you'll start to get clues about what that person is. And then if you don't know the answers to the question of, like, what do they care about and what are their hopes, fears, dreams, desires, what's the story they're trying to create for their lives, you freaking ask them, right?
You just straight up ask them, what's the story you're trying to create for your life? Or do you
well, I mean, you ask it in a more client-friendly way, but I ask questions like, I'm like, hey, tell me a little bit about, what are your goals here? What are your individual personal goals? Like, what is it that you're trying to achieve? How will you know that you made the impact you want in this job that you're in today? This is specifically how you might ask, like, a B2B buyer, right?
Yeah.
And so, for instance, I told you that our ideal customer, her name is Lindsay. She's based on a real client that we've had in our business. I've worked with her probably for 12 years. She's been at 2 different clients that we've worked with. She's been promoted throughout her career, and now she's the chief marketing officer of a mid-cap growth supply chain software company that, like, with, the current challenges of COVID-19 is blowing up, right?
Right.
And we created a profile of her. And when I say, like, draw it, I mean draw it. So, with some clients, I'm like, get out the butcher paper, roll it out. Somebody lays down, you trace around them and you draw them. But, like, if they're a good listener, they have big ears. If they have a lot of money, have them standing on a giant pile of money, have them holding a bag of money. One of the things that's amazing about her is she's incredibly metrics driven. So she's got a chart on her desk that shows a graph, right? Also, she's really resourceful. So she's got, like, this pocketbook with a big Swiss Army knife in it that has, like, 100 tools on it. She also has the magic golden shovel. And what the magic golden shovel is the shovel that she uses to dig for more budget for when we add value to her life and her processes and where she's going in her career. She can always dig for more money, right? And so it's a visual. Like, I actually had one of my creatives, like, make an infographic out of her. Like, design an infographic. It's part of our indoctrination process with our employees. It's part of, like, every conversation that we have about strategy. And because we have a visual bead on who this person is, and we know her, like, very intimately, and we've had drinks with her, and we know what makes that a great client relationship, we can look at our new prospects for shades of Lindsay.
Shades of like, hey, do you see Lindsay in this person? Tell me about, because sometimes you can learn more about when it doesn't fit. Have you encountered someone recently that is like the opposite of Lindsay? And does that person have a name? Is it like George? Sorry, George. Like, how do you, and maybe that'd be a good learning lesson for the team to know, like, no, this is, like, not Lindsay at all. This is why we have Lindsay, because this person is, like, God bless them, they're not a fit.
Yeah, we recently fired a client.
Okay.
Which, I'll say, like, as an aside, this is when you really know that you have arrived as an agency leader. Is that when you're in a position where you feel okay letting a client go because it doesn't serve you and your team very well. So that's just an aside for the agency people who might be listening to this. It's very empowering, and I will say, like, it really, really earned the trust and alignment of my team. To go to bat for them. But the conversation that we needed to have. So I told you a little bit about Lindsay and what she's like. She's metrics driven. She's results focused. She doesn't get all up in our business and, like, in our shit. She trusts us implicitly. She's a person who can convey, here's what my goals are for this. We know what the expectations are that we need to hit, and that she really trusts us to, like, drive her and her team towards those results. by the same token, clients who don't have those characteristics, that's a miserable fail for us. So this client that we had to, and when I say we fired her, like we fired her, we're like, this is not a good fit. The conversation I had with her was very similar to the last conversation I had to have with an employee that I encouraged to pursue excellence elsewhere, which was
Right.
sort of like, I think there's another place for you. And the characteristics that she had that were not Lindsay like were she was not purpose and mission driven. Her only stated goal was to make as much money as she could. And one of the things that we learned was like our Lindsay has a higher purpose. Like she's purpose driven, she's mission oriented and whatever. So that was the first thing. The other thing was like being able to use what we give her. So for this particular person, we were doing like a whole brand identity and brand platform and go-to-market strategy and all that kind of stuff. And she couldn't give feedback on the things that she didn't like, and she didn't like anything. And instead of trusting us and trusting our point of view, she would do things like take the visual identity work in progress, like, here are five comps for a logo concept or whatever. And she would take that shit and she would share it with other people who were not her target audience or her ideal customer.
Oh, right. Some random homies on Facebook, like, hey.
Random homies on Facebook are my favorite. I asked my boyfriend what he thinks. I'm like, who's your effing boyfriend? Right? Is he your target audience? No, he's not. You're for middle-aged women who are stuck. That was her audience.
You shared on Facebook and you're like, Facebook, what do you think? It's like, who's your audience? Like, who are you trying to talk to? Who's your Lindsay? I'm not your Lindsay. Don't listen to me.
Yeah. Yeah, right. Exactly. So I think like I can create a picture for what it feels like to be somebody's ideal customer or to not be somebody's ideal customer. So I think all the time, like as I go about my life consuming brand messages, just, on my way to work, I don't know, I see like 17 or 18 different brand messages.
Sure.
Like on the internet, like my commute to work is like the 20 feet from my bedroom to the dining room these days. But, most of my brand impressions happen on the internet right now. It's really easy for me. Like I get jarred. I get emotionally jarred when I see something that I'm like, these people don't know me at all. Right. So that feeling of like, these people don't know me at all. It's like, I'm not the target audience for this. I think every time I see a freaking Skittles ad, I'm like, what the actual fuck was that? And then I remember, I'm like, when is the last time, Deb Gabor, you ate a freaking pack of Skittles?
Right. Whereas I see that and I go, I see what you're doing there. I want some Skittles.
Yeah, and you might be the ideal customer for that. Now, I am the ideal customer for Girl Scout cookies, and I'm so bummed that Girl Scout cookie season is over.
Hell yeah.
Right?
Hell yeah. But isn't everyone? Do they have an ideal buyer for, or just like feed the masses?
So I imagine that the ideal customer for Girl Scout cookies is somebody who wants an indulgence to satisfy like a yearly craving, because there's scarcity built into that, right?
Yeah.
And I'm imagining it's somebody, she's probably a 41-year-old woman, and when she buys the Girl Scout cookies, she buys multiple boxes of them, and she hides that one box of Thin Mints in her closet. And she goes in there and closes the door, and she eats them directly out of the sleeve on her own, but she shares the rest of them with everybody else, right? Right. And so if you know that this is the magic of the ideal customer archetype, if you know who your ideal customer is, the story that they're trying to create for their lives, the challenges, the pain, the opportunities, what makes them sad, what makes them feel great, what makes them feel connected, what kind of emotions they have, all of that kind of stuff, you can aim your marketing directly at them.
Yeah. And I think
your brand is about them, not about you.
And kind of to tie into Nike, I think we all have our inner 41-year-old woman who wants to hide in the closet and eat Thin Mints. Once a year, which is once a year. But my local supermarket has store brand Thin Mints, and I've validated that they taste exactly the same.
Is it Hannaford?
It is Hannaford.
Will you get me some of those, please?
Yeah. How do you know about this?
So I used to do summers up in Northampton, New Hampshire
Yeah.
when I was younger, like
You
in
want some?
Rye, Portsmouth area, in Northampton, Hampton Beach, and
It is Hannaford.
Hannaford is like the
fantastic.
local place, and then dear friends of ours and family members in Manchester. So that's the place, so like if you can hook me up with some of those, like
I'll hook you up.
I'm sitting in right now with COVID times, like a lot of my free time is spent sitting on the floor of my closet, first lamenting the fact that I can't wear the 4,500 pairs of really exquisite designer shoes I own, because like this is what I have available to me right now.
Right. They're like, Mommy, wear me. And you're like, we can't. We're not going anywhere.
Yeah, exactly. So the other activity is like I'm hiding out from my pets, from my partner, like munching down on Girl Scout cookies.
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah. We'll have to hook you up on that. So, for example, like, my company, we do a lot of work with Pardot and Salesforce. And so as I'm thinking about what you're talking about, historically, we've helped everyone work with Pardot who wants to work with it. But I get the sense that not only are we looking for people that want to work with it, but it's almost like the core values of the people you want to work with align to your own. You mentioned the higher purpose, they trust you, they can actually execute on the things you're bringing them. So it's kind of like, who are we really good fit for? Is it more than just the top line? Like you said, start with the bottom line, really, who's driving revenue, but is it like that Venn diagram of who's driving revenue and who does the team actually like working with? And
well, the team should like them, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if they're the right client, if that's part of your client criteria, it certainly is for us. It's part of our client criteria. We have to be proud to represent that client, and we have to actually picture ourselves working with that client every day. And we have some techniques that we use as a team to match like the account people to the clients that I'll talk about in a minute. But like back to this idea of like aligning with values, like one of my mantra is that a brand is a magnet, right? And your brand is the magnet that's designed to attract to it human beings who share values and beliefs that are aligned with your own. So for instance, you mentioned Pardot and Salesforce. So if you think back to the early days of Salesforce, it was a very particular kind of organization that adopted Salesforce because Salesforce was a disruptor. Right. Yeah. Salesforce came in, turned the industry on its head, basically, invented the category of SaaS.
Yeah. Cloud. What?
Right. Yeah. And so, when you think about the brand of Salesforce, it attracted and it still attracts a very particular kind of human being. Like you go to Dreamforce, right? People who are Salesforce enthusiasts, like this is like a rock show for people, right? Yeah. These are people who view themselves as disruptors and as disruptive, right? And so that's a really, really good example. I think about my clients who are using Salesforce. We have a huge client. It's one of the largest companies in the world that is undergoing a digital transformation where they're going off of Eloqua, like a multi-million dollar license of Eloqua that they have had since version 1 through version 10 or 11. And they're moving to Salesforce, right? Wow. And this was a company, a tech company that I never imagined would make the switch because they were a tech company that their brand was very much in the like, we're sort of this stable safety net for everybody, right? We're the reliable choice. And then when I saw that they were evolving and they were going through a digital transformation to create a marketing stack that included all of the capabilities of Salesforce, I was like, they're signaling to the world that they are making a change.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And it's almost, what is it, like the secret or whatever? It's like whatever you're putting out, you're getting in, like whatever kind of things you're putting out there with your brand, you're attracting. So if you have a shitty brand, maybe you'll get shitty clients. But if you have this, like, we're fun or we're, forward-looking, like Salesforce, and yeah,
and it's more than that. I mean, like I explain to people all the time, and I cover this extensively in both Branding is Sex and in Irrational Loyalty. But brands are like people, right? Okay. They come to the table full of a set of values and beliefs. And right now during COVID time, we sure are seeing the values and beliefs of certain brands. Like yesterday, the big news was about some huge restaurant chains who were able to take advantage of the loophole extension on PPP loans to be able to qualify for multi-million dollar loans, those being Potbelly Sandwich and Danny Meyer's Shake Shack and Ruth's Chris Steakhouse, right? And so the interesting thing was there was a lot of conversation going on about that, where people were being critical of these organizations, saying like, if you have $140 million of reserves in the bank, you shouldn't be applying for loans that are taking food off the table of small business owners like Casey and Deb, right?
Yeah.
And the interesting thing that ensued was that, like, I haven't heard anything from Ruth's Chris. I mean, now, never mind the Ruth's Chris brand. If you're familiar with them, it's a steakhouse chain, and it's all over the United States. It's the third best steakhouse in second-rate cities is basically what it is. But we haven't heard anything from them at all, right? Who we did hear from was Danny Meyer from Shake Shack, who caved to the wave of public opinion and said, I'm going to give this back. Right.
See, I didn't know all that story. I just heard they gave it back. So I'm just thinking, oh, these are like nice guys. But it sounds like they had a little social pressure to. Yeah,
they caved to social pressure, which, my question is, those of you who have your heads up Danny Meyer's ass because you think he's the greatest thing since sliced bread and whatever, why did he apply for the freaking loan in the first place? Right. So this is what I'll say is that brands don't often tell you what you need to know about them. They show you. They show you. And so the brands that are showing you what they're made of right now, by all of them doing the same freaking commercial that starts with quiet piano music and a montage of people hugging each other and people walking around in masks and ends with hashtag we're in this together, they're showing us that they have nothing meaningful to say. Right?
Like, it just pisses me off seeing that shit. I'm like, come on, play to the heartstrings and just gross.
Well, and likewise, the emails, like I got 7,000 of these emails in my inbox that like the headline is we are all in this together. An important message from our CEO. So like, dear client or dear customer that you didn't even know we had your email address for the last 7 years. If you need a floor lamp, a table, a lawn chair, a light ringer, an Aston Martin, we're here for you. Oh, by the way, our thoughts and prayers go out to everybody. Also, let me tell you what we're doing for our employees, which you didn't even know existed until this current moment. And listen, I'm the CEO of this company. I'm on Richard Branson's yacht right now, but I'm here, right? And so like the brands that are showing up like that, like I said, they very rarely tell you what you need to know. They always show you. And so brands are like people. It's like, if we're in a friendship and like you show up late every single freaking time we make arrangements to go out for a drink, I'm like, Casey doesn't value my time. You never said that. You never said it, but you showed me. So it's really important that people understand, like, so to tie it back to the ideal customer archetype, how this works is like, Are you in a relationship? You married? You have
married, 2 kids. Yeah, totally.
Married, 2 kids, right? Yep. Okay. I'm assuming that your spouse is your ideal customer.
Yes.
For you. Yes. So brands are in an interpersonal relationship, right? And this is how this ties to this idea of irrational loyalty. You're in this interpersonal relationship, like with your wife. Yeah. I personally have a pet peeve. I like the dishwasher loaded in a particular way, very particular way. Hashtag tines up. Like the fork tines go up, right?
No shit. Why do you like the tines up? Is there
so they get clean, so they don't get all tangled with each other and have shit on them.
Better than if you have the tines down?
It matters. It matters because they all get tangled with each other.
Have you A/B tested this? Do you know?
Don't go there with me.
All right, keep going. All right.
But it's a very particular way that I like to have
the
dishwasher. That I like to have the dishwasher loaded, and I've shared that with my partner. And every time he loads the dishwasher, he now does it with the tines up. But we have a relationship where we share values. We have a relationship where we've set expectations for each other and we've made promises to each other, where all of our behaviors, all of our actions are like contributing to the development and the growth of this emotional bank account. So every time Eric loads the dishwasher correctly, it adds to the bank account. Every time he takes the pets into the other room so I can do a webinar or a podcast interview or whatever, he deposits into the emotional bank account. the emotional bank account that we have with one another is in the positive realm.
Yeah.
When he forgets to load the dishwasher with the tines up and I have to go in behind him and turn all of the forks over or whatever,
Yeah.
I don't kick him out on his ass.
Right.
Right?
Right.
That is irrational loyalty. People and interpersonal relationships who have established that positive emotional bank account. And how do you get a positive emotional bank account? It's by like setting expectations, delivering on those expectations, showing up with a set of values and beliefs, and aligning those values and beliefs with another person. You have to know who your ideal customer is, right? So brands that have developed this irrational loyalty are the ones that are going to thrive now and in a post-pandemic world, right? Yeah, these are the ones like I think about the brands right now that are out there like just trying to hammer me with sales messages, showing no acknowledgement of the human condition or the situation that we're in right now. They're fucking up the irrational loyalty.
Yeah, the
right?
worst. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm willing to give a brand a pass if they do one of those stupid ads or they sent me one of these stupid, we're all in this together emails, because I know as a brand crisis expert, I know that people don't know what to say. And often the first thing they go to is like, what is everybody else doing? And that's what happened.
Yep.
I'm willing to give those brands who otherwise are adding value to my life and depositing into our emotional bank account together, and that we're otherwise aligned, I'm willing to give them a pass. And that's why irrational loyalty is something that's going to sustain people during this time. So for instance, let's say you have a business that can't operate right now, or I colored my own hair the other day. I think about like my hairdresser, right?
Oh, hell yeah. I know.
She's in a business that people can't even patronize right now. However, she is communicating with me with valuable information. Deb, if you are going to color your hair at home, here's 5 tips. Here's what you should buy. Here's what you should do. And then, you know what? Like, I'm happy to talk you through this on FaceTime, right? Add value to my life.
Wow.
Additionally, she's like, I suspect that as soon as we're open for business that you're going to want to get in early, make sure that like, here's 5 sites that you can use to explore new hairstyles that are going to be appropriate for your hair that's now 6 inches longer than it was.
I know, mine too.
Right? The best example of this irrational loyalty concept is a little brand of ice cream that comes from Texas, like right near my hometown. This is Bluebell ice cream. I don't think you guys have that up there in the Northeast, but we in Texas feel about Bluebell ice cream like y'all feel about Dunkin' Donuts, right?
Yeah.
Like it's truly an obsession. And so Bluebell ice cream doesn't have to market themselves on the basis of we have milk and we're cold and we're sweet, right? They don't talk about the product. It's memories, expectations, a relationship. So when Bluebell ice cream had this massive listeria breakout in their plant back in 2014, I think, and several people died from using the product, they did everything right to create irrational loyalty.
Did they kill people with ice cream? How did they fix that?
Well, how they fixed that was what all brands need to be doing right now. So how they fixed that? First of all, they took responsibility. This is our fault. We own this. We're fully accountable for this. They showed regard for humanity. They're like, this is completely unacceptable. Everything for the families and the victims and all this kind of stuff. So in addition to the 3 people dying, many people got sick. They immediately closed their plant. They invited in investigators to help them figure out what was the origin of this. And the plant was closed for 2 years, What they did during those 2 years is what defines a brand. So the plant was closed. They couldn't produce the ice cream coming from Bluebell. However, they took out a loan of $125 million. They continued to pay every single employee who worked there.
Damn.
For the entire time. They continued to communicate. They were like, we have no information about when the plant is going to open up. Just know that we're committed. We've taken full responsibility. Here's when we're going to update you. So they set expectations. They fulfilled those expectations, right? All of those things. They isolated the problem. They got rid of the problem. When Bluebell ice cream came back on the market 2 years later, people were lined up out the door, down the street, around the corner to get their hands on a half gallon of ice cream because you could only get one. And you want to guess what flavor it was?
What?
Vanilla. It was just plain vanilla. People are so irrationally loyal to this brand because of the memories and the nostalgia and the connections and the happiness and all of those emotional things. This was a brand that was able to bridge the gap. Now, here's the coda on the story. This is a brand that is expanding rapidly. So it used to be like a regional Texas brand. It's now expanded to like 11 more states. They've added 22 more flavors, including my personal favorite, which is peppermint stick, which is available only at Christmas time. So these are the lessons that we can learn during this particular time, is like, think about how do I create that condition of irrational loyalty? Aim your brand at that singular ideal customer, become part of the person who uses it, make them feel like they can't live without you, be indispensable to them. Ultimately, be indispensable to them, add value to their lives, right? Your brand is about them. It's not about you. Deposit into the emotional bank account with your behaviors. Be consistent. That's why the ideal customer archetype is so important. It gives you that consistency. If you know who you are for, you'll know how to behave. So, brands are like people, and they can engender this irrational loyalty. I think I explained to you the first time we talked, irrational loyalty is how I feel about my iPhone, right?
Yeah, me too. I got one. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I've owned every iThingy ever made, right?
Yeah.
I think we have the same color one. That's so cool.
Really?
Oh, is yours white? Mine is mine is green.
Oh, you got, see, I only have one camera right now and it's broken. But what am I going to do?
Oh, I'm sorry. But here's the thing. I know that you're going to go buy another iPhone. You're not going to go buy a Samsung Galaxy, whatever. And so quick story about that.
That'd be
like a couple years ago, I was like, I want to buy one of these new Samsung things that looks really freaking cool. It's cheaper. It's better performance. It has faster memory. It has more storage. It has more durable glass because I'm a klutz. And I went to Best Buy. There was even a very well-educated salesperson there to tell me all of that stuff. I held that shit in my hand and I felt dirty.
Yeah.
Right? Like, if you text me and I see a green text bubble, I'm like, who the fuck are you? Like, you're not even a real person. It's irrational. There's nothing rational about it. But that irrational loyalty is what sustains brands in the long term.
Right. Irrational loyalty. And you create that loyalty by having a soul and demonstrating it with your actions. Your whole thing about actions, you can say as much as you want with these emails. You could say whatever you want in the email, but it's like, what is the email? What are you doing? And it's like, do as I say, not as I do. But we're looking at what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, we're looking at what you do. I think it was Mark Cuban came out like probably 2 or 3 weeks ago, and he was speaking mostly like to CEOs, and he was speaking about leadership. But I take away from this for brands as well. And that is like, what you do during this time will define you forever. What you do at all times is going to define you forever. What I see, like the great leaders that I see and the great brands that I see, they're doing exactly what I expect them to do. Are they fumbling around? Yes. You know what? Customers are extending a certain amount of grace. Like, here's an example: marketing agency, brand-driven, strategy-led marketing firm, right? I sent everybody home at the beginning of March. We've been working from home. We're not the most productive at home because my business really relies on us being together and collaborating and stuff. And it's clunky and it's awful. And you know what? Some of our operations are not as smooth as they were previously. Like, I can't walk over to accounting and be like, hey, this invoice is screwed up. I'm on the phone, all this kind of stuff. We've screwed up a couple of invoices with clients. We've forgotten to invoice things and had to send another invoice, which like makes me absolutely crazy. But in this time, our clients are extending us a certain amount of grace because we have a positive balance overall in the emotional bank account.
Emotional bank account. I think it's important that we've called attention to that, because I don't think we think about that bank account we have with people. I mean, there's so many. It's like, what's in it for me? It's all about the marketer. And no, it costs $0 to send this. I'm just going to send it. But every time you send that bad thing or that thing that isn't helpful, or it's too much, too soon, and just not adding value to their lives.
Yeah, or it's tone deaf. Like I've been doing lots of public webinars. Basically, I told you this. I've never worked so hard for less money in my life, but I firmly believe that there's never been a better time for me to give generously of my expertise, because it elevates other people. And as a result, I'm having a ton of new business conversations, and we're generating proposals. Like, it's happening, and we're drawing people to us. But the interesting thing is, like, when I do these webinars, and they're very popular these days, I share the COVID it's called Hall of Fame, where I share like marketing from people who like really have screwed it up. But I also share like, here's some brands that are really doing it right. And so one of the earliest brands that this was a brand move that inspired me was back before we even went on shelter in place here in the United States. And it comes from France. So LVMH, who is the parent company of Louis Vuitton, Christian Dior, and a lot of, you know, these like exquisite European fashion brands. They like, this is a brand that people are not patronizing right now. Like, I'm not going out looking for a $2,000 handbag, right? However, they did one of the best things, which was they retooled their perfume factories that make Louis Vuitton and Christian Dior perfume to be able to make hand sanitizer, and met France's need for hand sanitizer in 72 hours. Wow. That was a brand move. They're not selling anything. They're helping people. They're showing us their heart. They're showing us their true colors, right? Yeah. And so you can bet your ass the next time I'm flushed with cash and I decide that I need an irrational, you know, several $1,000 handbag.
Sure.
Because like what I eat, what I drink, what I wear, what I carry says something about me, both to myself and to other people.
Oh, for sure.
That's part of it too. But when I'm ready, that's one of the first brands I'm going to go to. So, you know, like what you do in this time, what you do always will show the world how you truly are. Now, on the flip side, like the same day that I heard about that, I got an email from an online retailer who also has physical stores that are now closed. And this was like right around what would have been spring break time. So middle of March, right? Middle of March is when here in the Southwest, we start spring break. And the email that I got, the headline on the email was, "Staycay is better than vacay." And I was like, F all y'all, because this is anything but a staycay.
Yeah.
This is a global pandemic. I received it on the day the WHO declared coronavirus a global pandemic. The next day I received an email from Costco that was like, "Hey Deb, I know you bought those 12 legal pads last week. Could you give us a star rating?" I was like, I have bigger fish to fry than rating my purchase of 12 yellow legal pads from Costco. So, you know, what you do in this time, and I believe both of those messages, the staycay is better than vacay, and then Costco's message to me, I believe that those are victims of marketing automation. And what I'm telling people right now, I love marketing automation, right? Like you and I both make lots of money from marketing automation.
Hell yeah.
I love marketing automation. Turn it off. Turn it off right now. Now is the time to humanize communication. Go into your marketing automation. Look at your sequences that are scheduled out for the next couple of months and make sure that there are no little Easter eggs lying in there that are going to offend somebody.
Yeah,
like
pause that shit, right? Like,
right.
Slow your roll, people.
Yes. Pause that shit. Yes.
People might have just overlooked and been like, "Oh, that's helpful," or not, and just moved on. But during this time, you're right. You're going to be sensitive. Your cute joke about being healthy is probably not cute anymore.
No. And then, you know, things that are like, you know, coming ashore fast and whatever. It's like,
who did that,
like,
right?
Be careful of
Corona
the metaphors.
Did that, I think, right?
Like, it's just, I'm just telling everybody, turn off the marketing automation, go in and look at your content. And when I say marketing automation, I'm not just talking about like your email sequences. I'm talking about any pre-programmed social that you have getting ready to go. So most offensive thing. So I'm scrolling through Instagram one afternoon, and I follow dogs, cats, and food on Instagram.
Nice.
So like,
good
there you go. You know everything you need to know about me, right? So I'm going through, and like directly under the appeal from like a local restaurant that I'm a huge fan of, they're basically saying, they're like, we have to close our doors. We can't afford to retool our entire business to become a takeout business. We don't have any other sources of funding. But if we mean anything to you as a restaurant going public, will you please buy some gift certificates, because we hope to open in the future. So this plea, like this very vulnerable, authentic, open plea from a restaurant that I love, directly below it, there's an ad for a company that creates business plans for restaurants. And so the ad says, like, get your free custom restaurant opening business plan. I got a restaurant business plan for you right now. Don't open one.
Right.
Right. And so that's the, now is the time to humanize everything. And it all goes back to this idea that a brand is this set of values and beliefs. And it's this magnet that attracts to it people who share values and beliefs that are similar. Like my values and beliefs are that now is a time to humanize communication and humanize marketing. And we all know, and I'm an amazing copywriter, I'll say it myself, like I can write some very, very human, authentic, vulnerable, open, very clear content. I can do that. However, that's not necessarily everything that's in my evergreen nurture sequence right now. Right? Yeah.
Huh.
Did I take us too far off track? It's all
No, I love it. I mean, and it needs to be said. What we do now echoes, right? It's the whole gladiator. What you do in life echoes in eternity. What you do during COVID is going to echo your brand. I mean, it's like, and it's good. It just magnifies it. So I ranted about a brand that had this email that came in and said, "We care." It was another partner.
What, did you not care before?
Similar to us, right? It was just like, we could have sent this email ourselves, which is why I was so pissed, because it was like holding myself to a higher standard. We care, big banner at the top. We care, which is also a core value of my company, because we do care. And then it's like, hey, COVID-19, doing all the keyword stuff in the first paragraph. And it's like, we're here to help you. Here's a pricing table of our services you can buy. And I was like, you sons of bitches, like you're just using the keywords and using we care, which I'm sensitive to. And you're like, here's our prices. So I like screenshotted that shit, put it on LinkedIn. But I bleeped out their name.
Like, so I'll tell you this. I'll tell you this for free. Like, you send me a shitty email, I'm outing you on social media, right?
I thought about doing that. I really did, but then I covered it up.
I don't know. Well, you know what? I'm the brand dominatrix. I'm gonna.
You are. I should take a page out of your book. Because hardcore marketing,
I
feel like
work
outing
for your brand personality, right? You seem like a really, really nice, genuine person.
Yeah, I'm a nice guy, I think.
Yeah, I think you're a very nice guy. But
well, you know, on Monday I did call someone who spammed me and said, "Don't do this. This is not good." He's like, "Well, it wasn't spam. I just sent this email to a few people." I was like, "No, this is terrible. This gives you a bad reputation. Please never do this." And I don't know, but it was still nice. I wasn't mean. You might have yelled at him.
No, I wouldn't have yelled at him. I might have condemned him to hell and had him report to the trip, which is more my style. Like, I once fired a guy and he was like, "I feel like I just got fired." And I was like, "Yeah, you did." But so on that, I think it's still okay to market and sell. I do. But you have to do it through a lens of helping versus selling. And that requires you to ask the question, like, first you have your ideal customer in mind, and you ask the question of, how can I be indispensable to this person at this time? Yes. Because there are still things that people need to pay for and that they're willing to purchase. The time for rampant customer acquisition is coming. A lot of us see opportunity coming from what's going on here. And I will caution everybody about not using the word opportunity, because this is anything but an opportunity for most people. A lot of us are very sheltered. Like, I'm not feeling food insecure. I'm not feeling like I can't keep a roof over my head.
Right.
There are many people who are thinking that. So like, when I say I see opportunity here, my neighbor may not see opportunity. So it's really important, the choice of words when you're doing this. And this is all part of your brand, right? But the time, like you may have something that people need. So that company that sent you their pricing sheet, like, what they didn't do was, what are my big rules of crisis communication? First, show regard for humanity, right?
Yes.
Casey, we know this is a difficult time, and you may be frustrated, anxious, and worried about these things right now with regard to what we're doing, right? Like, acknowledge humanity, acknowledge the current situation. Also acknowledge the fact that I'm part of your community, right? Focus on me, right? And then, help me understand what you are going to do that makes you indispensable to me. So, quick story, I've got a really good friend. He's an EO member. He owns a chain of eco-friendly dry cleaners, among other things. But the dry cleaners, like, when we all went home, our need for dry clean only stuff went way down, right? And he was like, this is going to like kill my business. What can I do? And I said, well, let's ask the question. How can you be indispensable to people at this time? Well, you know what? I'm in my dining room, and I moved into this house in September, and I haven't changed anything in this room, including the dingy drapes that have probably been hanging here for 25 years, right? Like, I'm at home. I'm concerned about cleanliness. This is my life for the next 6 months. Like, let me know that also, did you know that you can clean drapes and comforters and pillows and soft things around your house. Did you know that you can get these things clean? Likewise, he's a guy, he has a business, he has delivery vans and drivers, right?
Right.
And, we may not be like sending out our shirts and our jackets and our dresses and things like that for dry cleaning right now, but he has a network of delivery vans and drivers. How can he make use of those?
Right.
Oh, well, you know what? Some of these restaurants that are not able to deliver food, look, they've got a built-in driver network, and it elevates both brands, right?
Yes.
And so that's what I mean by retooling the factory and focusing on your own community. I believe that you can sell. You have to sell by bringing people to you, not going to them. And so yeah, I'm glad that you gave that example of that pricing email. Like I've been offended by things. Like my daughter is a college student. She lives in a college apartment, and they sent me, we are all in this together email, like the we care bullshit, that basically the key message was, we care so much, we're making it possible for you to pay rent online.
Oh, wow. Thanks, asshole.
Exactly.
Like, wow. Okay.
Yeah. Do you really care? No, you give zero shits. You care about you. You don't
Right.
give a shit about me. You don't give a shit about like this poor college age 22-year-old student who lives in a college apartment, who is going through like one of the most adult things that anybody should ever go through before adulthood. And you're telling me that like you care so much that you're making it possible so I can pay her rent online. Like, I would much rather hear like, how are you helping students cope? How are you protecting their safety? How are you, like, what are you doing to serve, what are you doing to serve us as the buying public? So So like I said, like you don't have to completely stop selling and marketing, but if I connect with you on LinkedIn, like you send me a connection request and we become friends, and then immediately you bombard me with one of those automated messages inviting me to join your fucking mastermind, we're done.
Well said. And with that, my question to you is, who are you? Where did you come from? How did you become this queen of brand, this like slayer of bad marketing? Like, can you take us back to like little Deb days? What was it like being you? Where did you grow up? Who are you?
Yeah. So I'm originally from Cincinnati, Ohio. So I'm a product of like, people consider it the Midwest. It behaves partially Midwestern, but partially Mid-Atlantic.
Sure.
And so lived there as a little kid, and then lived in New York and New Jersey as like a very little kid.
Oh, wow.
And so, like the most formative years, they say that the beginning of conscious memory is about 4 years old.
Okay.
Right. And so like my earliest memories are from the time that like my dad worked in New York City and we lived in the New Jersey suburbs, and my father took a train into work in his office in the World Trade Center every day. And we dropped him off at the station in this like really shitty car. And my entire life has been, I'll say like from early childhood, everything in my world has been measured in terms of productivity, right? My parents are very productive people. Here's another thing, like you probably hear this from other people who have a similar background. So my family is Eastern European Jewish. My grandparents were Holocaust survivors. My father is a Holocaust survivor. They're also survivors of the Hungarian Revolution. They came to the United States like in the middle 50s, early 60s. And that immigrant experience is also part of what formed me, where I have a very sort of practical, pragmatic, peasant-like view of the world, right? So, I grew up in the household where we didn't have name brand stuff. And this is part of the story of how did I come to be like obsessed with brands. Like we didn't have name brand stuff. My dad liked the generics. We shopped at Aldi. Like my dad would drink beer out of a white can that said beer on it, literally.
Really? Kind of like in Lost. It was like, this is beer, this is butter. Right? It was just like,
I mean, that's what we meant by generics. We're not even talking like storehouse brands, like truly generics. And there was like a pride. There was a pride in that. And the fanciest food we ever had in our house. And don't get me wrong, we were not poor. I didn't want for anything. My dad was an executive at the phone company. My mom was a very successful CPA with a very entrepreneurial CPA practice. Highly, highly educated people. But very pragmatic and non-brand conscious. And then another couple of interesting things were that I had never eaten at a McDonald's until I was a freshman in college.
Wow.
if we ever ate out at a restaurant, it was like a really special occasion, like my high school graduation, or I snuck away because my parents bought me a car when I was 16. Which it's an interesting existence to be like the contrast of like being that person. I always tell people, I'm like, the favorite snack in my house was saltine crackers, right?
Yeah.
I had never eaten until I got married in 1995 to a man who grew up and lived in the Chicago suburbs. I had never eaten this food that people love at Thanksgiving that is green bean casserole. Like, I didn't even know that shit existed because my parents were like, they were like oddly straddling the old world and the new world.
Yeah.
And
it's not like it wasn't money, because like an executive
no, that was like,
they just wanted to like save or just be very.
I think that they were not fanciful people.
Okay.
Like and the essence of brand is that it's something that elevates our self-concept and it tells a story about us to other people. I mean, the choice to be brandless is a brand itself, right?
Yeah.
But I don't think my parents were conscious of it. I think my parents very much emphasized experience. They emphasized people over profits. All of those kinds of things. They're just very principled, just really, really educated, very smart people. Like, my dad, he learned English in like 6 months or something like that. Then went to undergrad for engineering, went to law school, got an MBA. My mom was like the first female chemical engineering student at the University of Cincinnati. Like, like incredibly smart people, very well educated. And I think that they just didn't have that sort of brand thing. So then here I come, like getting into high school. And then all of a sudden I'm like out from the watchful eye of my parents, which I don't think they were watching. I don't think they were trying to keep me from brands. They just didn't bring us around.
No. Yeah.
So like freshman in high school or sophomore in high school, like, starting to make friends with cars, are like, let's go to McDonald's. I'm like, what's that? Right. And was
that world changing when you had that little tiny mini hamburger and you're like, what kind of witchcraft is in this thing?
Well, let me tell you. So this is a little bit of trivia. I have never eaten a McDonald's hamburger.
What? Cheeseburger?
A McDonald's hamburger has never crossed my lips. Now, I've eaten enough fries, like I've eaten my body weight in fries. I've also had the famous seal sandwich, otherwise known as the fillet of fish. And
only on Fridays.
Yeah, exactly. And then chicken McNuggets and things like that. My daughter is a chicken sandwich enthusiast. Actually, she has an entire like Instagram like perma story that's just her eating McChicken sandwiches, which is hilarious. But so being like starting to be exposed to brands, I was this interesting student of brands. Right? Because I was like coming from the outside. I was like, oh, what is this? And I experienced this irrational loyalty through the eyes of other people. And
because you were kind of immune to it. Well, not immune, but you hadn't been exposed, so you were able to really observe people going goo-goo for certain things.
And I'm like, what is this shit? This looks like it tastes horrible. Like, that's why the whole idea of a McDonald's hamburger, I literally have never had one. Even though I know that that's like the thing.
What about a Big Mac? Have you had a Big Mac?
No.
But the hot stays hot and the cold
bun
stays
in
cold.
there. 2 off beef patty, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions on a sesame seed bun. Like, it's this big. No, thank you. It's bigger than I am.
We should do some research next time we're at an event together.
I know, right? You're going to have to, like, you will first have to get me drunk or high.
Well, it is good drunk food. I mean, because White Castle is like really good.
Sliders, yeah.
Have you had those?
We had those. We don't
when I say really good, I don't mean really good food. I mean really good when you're intoxicated.
Yes. And the choices that you make when you're intoxicated, like maybe those are the real choices. I don't know. But, so anyway, I like lived this like not a forced brand existence, but it just was like, a happenstance, non-brand existence. And then I get exposed to other people and I have a curiosity about it. Then I decided to go to college. And when I went away to college, like 2 things. First, I was like, I want to be a doctor because, I'm the daughter of a Jewish lawyer and a Jewish accountant. All we need is a doctor. And I have a brother who's a rocket scientist. So like we needed a doctor to fill it out. I went to undergrad. I took like my first class where you had to, we had to actually dissect something. And I found I'm not good with bodily fluids, like not at all. Like I can't even
try to drain those, don't they? Like frogs and shit. They try to Drain that out so you don't have the
feral
fluid.
pigs, frogs, cats. Like it was the cat that sent me over.
Why do they have us do that in school anyways? Like, I don't even understand. Like, I'm not going to be a doctor. Why do I need to see the inside of this creature?
Well, I thought I was going to be a doctor, so I needed to see the inside of the creature, right?
Got
you know,
it. Okay.
And so that lasted an entire semester, like the anatomy class from hell. And then I was like, all right, I need to find something else to do with my life. And what I found was journalism. So I found journalism and what I wanted to be. It was more like who I wanted to be. I wanted to be Jane Pauley. I wanted to be Barbara Walters. I wanted to be Connie Chung. I don't know if you remember who these people are. I think you're younger than I am. But like I wanted to go into broadcast journalism. And so I changed my course of study and I continue to be like an observer of the world.
Yeah.
And also I think that's where I really honed the storytelling skills. And so much about journalism is applicable to branding, marketing, communication, because like if I look at like what my role is now and how I serve brands, it's by helping them uncover their core DNA and then articulate that in a way that's most meaningful to their audience, right? And I learned that by studying journalism and then being like early in my career being a journalist. And, the thing that happens, like people who worked in journalism in the early 90s, which is when I came out into the world, we didn't make much money, not at all. Like I could barely make enough money to live and I needed to get a corporate job. Plus I wanted to move, like I wanted to move to a big city. I was like, I need like New York, Chicago, LA. I need to go to one of these places.
Well, hold on. You went to school in Miami?
I went to school in Oxford, Ohio at Miami University.
Oh, so it was remote?
The Harvard of the West.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, because I was going to say, like, that would have been, like, culture shock to go from, like, no brands to being, like, brands everywhere.
Yeah, I know, right? Like South Beach.
Right?
Yeah. So I went from Oxford, Ohio to I was like, I need to go to a big city because like I was like, I either need to go to a big city to be a journalist so that I can get into a major market. And the job that I had, I was running the assignment desk at the NBC affiliate in Cincinnati, and I was doing it overnight. And like my big claim to fame was if there was nobody there to report on a story, say a car crash or a gunshot wound or a murder, I was the person who had to like run out and report the story. Basically, I stood up my camera and I held onto my microphone and I shot my own stand-ups, right? It was like not very glamorous at all. Like when shit was going down in the middle of the night, Deb Gabor was reporting on it, right? Nice. And for that privilege, I made the paltry sum of like $13,000 a year. And I was screw that, right? Yeah. So I thought, how can I parlay these skills into some kind of a corporate job, right?
Right.
And, I ended up like basically becoming a corporate storyteller, if you will. I joined the, corporate communications organization of like one of the largest companies in the world. And that, also it turns out like, here's a thing that you probably have picked up about me, which a lot of EO members like have this thing, like any job I ever had, I became the boss very quickly. So like, she's the youngest, least experienced person here. She should be the boss. Right.
Wow.
And
cool.
So I went through like this leadership training and development program for 8 years at this massive corporation. And I learned business. Like I learned it from the inside out because I did like basically every function of this company for like a rotation. And so the company was AT&T. And what I learned was it was this incredible, powerful global brand. And the culmination of that was when I got my last assignment at AT&T, which was to manage the AT&T sponsorship of the 1996 Olympics in Atlanta.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And so if you remember the 1996 Olympics in Atlanta, that's when Richard Jewell set off a bomb.
I didn't remember the name, but I remember there was the bombing in the Atlanta Olympics. Yeah.
Yes. And where it occurred was next to the AT&T stage.
Oh, it was in some park. It was near the AT&T stage.
It's Centennial Park. And it was like right near the AT&T stage. And This was the moment, this was like the pivotal moment where I like really learned that thing that people are looking to brands for leadership, right? And it was from that point forward that my entire like career trajectory changed. So that was my last job at AT&T.
What about that experience? What kind of leadership were they looking for at the very moment they were looking to the stage for help, or are you saying in general?
No, just like in general, how should we think? How should we feel? How should we act? In the same way, we're like looking at these TV commercials that are like, they all start with the slow piano music and the people outside clapping for the first, you know, the frontline workers and all that kind of stuff. We're like looking for them to tell us, how should we feel? How should we think? How should we act? And AT&T being a major sponsor, major sponsor. Like at the time, I lived in Atlanta for a year working on this sponsorship. Like in that moment, I was like, this is our do or die moment as a brand, right? How the brand shows up, our leadership during this time, you know, what we take responsibility for, which none of it was AT&T's responsibility, but the way AT&T showed regard for humanity, the way that AT&T behaved, the way that AT&T jumped in to fulfill the needs for communication at the time. Remember the question, how can we be indispensable to people at this time? Oh, we do telecom, let's help. Right? Yeah. All of those kinds of things, like it ignited something in me. And then I went to the high tech industry because my next opportunity, I worked for a company, I don't know if you remember who these guys are, but they were the first people to put people on the internet. They made a 9600 baud modem, dial-up modem. They were called US Robotics.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. And so I went there. I was a very early employee there.
It's a funny name for a company that doesn't really make robots, you know.
Yeah, it's branding, right? Yeah. And the name came from the book I, Robot. And, you know, there's like, there was like, you know, sort of legendary mythology behind the brand. And Casey Cowell, the founder, like he was one of the early, like sort of wacky tech leaders. And he would ride around our facilities, like on a scooter, and he would stop at people's cubes and, you know, offer you $100 if you could recite the core values and all that kind of stuff. It was like really
like the stereotypes would, wow. Yes. Okay.
And so this was the go-go days of the tech industry. So this was like 1997 that I joined this company, and I was like the very first brand person, because technology marketing, B2B technology marketing, and I worked on the B2B side of the business, which was like, you know, cable head end and enterprise, remote access. So not consumer modems, but like preparing telecom carriers to be able to do data communications, preparing enterprises to be able to do remote access, VPNs, all that kind of stuff. The early days when the highest speed you could get out of a modem was 128K.
Wow.
Yeah. But I was one of the very first brand people there. And it was it was this great experience where I got to sort of like blaze trails. And I'm like, all right, we're no longer just a product company. We actually have a relationship with customers, because one thing that was technology marketing then that is still widely technology marketing is the analogy of we sell a better mousetrap. Right. Yeah. And so technology marketing is like telling people about, this is why our mousetrap is better. Look at these hinges, look at this thing, which what I learned at US Robotics was that the selling a better mousetrap meant that you had to sell people on the idea that mice are a problem and that they had mice, which changed the dynamic of marketing. Like I originally started as a product marketer. I appointed myself brand marketer after that, because I was like, we are only going to differentiate. So if you think about who our competitors were at the time, companies like Cisco, companies like 3Com, which actually ended up buying us, you know, right? All of these things. I'm like, if we're going to exist in this world and we are going to, you know, create a lasting impact for customers, we have to be something more than plumbing for the internet, right? Right. And so that was like my first experience, like going from product marketing to being a brand marketer. Then, you know, so that's like I call that BA, before agency. So I worked on the client side for the first like 10 years of my career. Right.
Right.
Then I on a boondoggle, I wanted to come visit Austin, Texas, where my younger brother was getting his PhD at the University of Texas in rocket science. He's like, Austin's really cool. You need to come down here. It's really neat. You know, it's a one-horse town, but I think you'll like it. It's really funky. I opened myself up to recruiters. I was like, what the heck? Why not? And a company from Austin, which happened to be a brand strategy and research consultancy specifically serving the technology industry.
Wow.
Yeah. They were like, we need people with client side experience who can speak client who can interpret research and help clients be able to use it in an effective way in their businesses. And I was like,
Wow.
well, but I'm the ideal customer for that. You're the ideal customer for me. So like, you know, I took a job interview because I wanted a free trip to Austin to visit my bro.
Yeah.
And what I ended up with was a whole new life.
Wow.
And so I worked for that company. They were called IntelliQuest. They were purchased by Millward Brown, part of Kantar Media, which is a division of WPP. Okay.
Wow.
And this like starts the process. Like those of us who have been in the agency business that haven't always been independent agencies, we either worked for WPP, Media Square, or Omnicom or Publicis.
Oh,
right?
I get it. Yeah.
Yeah. So like I sort of, you know, kind of maneuvered around in that environment. And then I went to another agency, which they were called Cunningham Communication. And what they were was strategic communication and brand positioning specifically for technology companies, right?
Wow.
And I honed my skills there. Everything I learned was from this woman, Andy Cunningham, who has written a really great book that everybody should read. And it's called Get to Aha, where she talks about mothers, missionaries, and mechanics. And you should get her on your show.
Okay.
But tell her Deb Gabor says she learned everything from her. But, you know, I learned everything from her in terms of being an entrepreneur, being a woman entrepreneur, being just like an incredible, inspirational, like very smart, very human, feeling, caring, authentic, heart-centered leader. But I also learned a lot about just the essence of becoming part of the people who use your products in one of the most difficult categories there is to create a brand.
Right.
Yeah. And then 2001, September 11th, 2001 happened. And that was like, this was the pivotal moment for me. And this is how I became an entrepreneur. A lot of people became entrepreneurs out of this. But, you know, September 11th occurred. We went from being the agency that clients would hire for $50,000 to $100,000 a month budget, sight unseen, like just with a phone call, to like begging for business.
Wow.
Right. And in 2002, so September 11th, like fast forward to like January. Hey, Comet, it's my dog. The trials and tribulations of working from home.
I know,
2002, right? January 2002, we have this company meeting where we fly the entire company, all several hundred people, to Monterey, California, where we basically buy out the entire town. We literally are giving away Volkswagens to employees for recruiting people and stuff like that. We get home from that meeting on Sunday night. I come to the office on Monday morning. My boss pulls me in and he was like, we got to let 72 people go from this office today. Tomorrow you're flying to Silicon Valley and doing the same thing. The next day you're flying to Cambridge and doing the same thing.
What? After this massive party?
Which, like, some of that shit's happening right now too. I mean, think about EO, you know, $7 million worth of events that have to be canceled and all this kind of stuff. It was a very bad time. So in one fell swoop, my boss promoted me to like EVP and said, he's like, I'm stepping down. He's like, I'm stepping down. You're reporting directly to the CEO. And for your first move, you got to lay all these people off, right?
Oh my goodness.
I legit suffer PTSD from that experience of having to let those people go. And when this Corona Michigas started a couple of weeks ago, I was feeling those PTSD feelings because it felt very similar to like that post 9/11 thing. That's the entire reason I have my own company. And that's so that I can be in the driver's seat. I get to say like, and this is maybe my entrepreneurial control freak nature, but I get to say when people go and come, right? I never want to be in that situation where I feel so out of control that I feel like so much has been taken from me, because like, I value people over profits, right? And going back to brand, I had to behave in a way that like was not in accordance with my values and beliefs, and my integrity was compromised in those moments. My integrity was also compromised when my new boss came in after another acquisition and told me that we were going to do business with a tech business called Ashley Madison, and I don't know if you remember what Ashley Madison was. But you know, this was a site where famous guys could cheat on their wives with, you know, like basically Tinder for leches. And I decided I just never want to
right.
be in a situation where I have to compromise my integrity for somebody else's business.
Right. It sounds like a massive core values difference. Like, and did you have to lay off the 70 plus 70 plus, like all individual, like you one at a time kind of thing? So
Yeah.
your weeks were just blocked off with just having to be the bearer of bad news for days on end?
Have you seen that movie Up in the Air with George
I
Clooney?
have. Yeah.
It was a little bit like that.
It was like that.
It was gross. So the day like when I had to lay off the people in the Austin office, which basically was like 90% of the Austin office,
Yeah.
like so my boss was in the office, which we had those fishbowl offices that were like along the corridors. People sat by the windows, like the people like sat in cubes by the windows so that they could get the natural light. And then we sat in these fishbowl offices with the glass, like the glass doors and windows.
Right.
And so he was sitting in the room, and I would go out and I would do like the death march, and I would like go get a person and bring them in. They started figuring out what was going on. And so every time I walked towards someone's desk, like people would burst into tears when they saw me.
Oh my goodness.
Right.
Yeah.
And I have a strong need for approval from other people.
I'm with you. And like you're put in this position as like the Grim Reaper.
Mm-hmm. No, people would literally burst into tears if they made eye contact with me. And it was like, I have a couple pivotal moments, like in EO, we do the lifeline.
Yeah.
Like that was a low on my lifeline, but it was a high on my lifeline because it really shined a light on what my core values are.
Yeah.
And it really demonstrated to me that the reason that I needed to have a company where I was in charge of like what are, how we honored those beliefs and values, and that I was able to like screen in and bring to me people who are aligned with those beliefs and values and have them like jump in my boat with me and support me and all that kind of stuff. Like that's when everything changed. And so and I started my company in 2003 and I have never looked back. So
that's awesome.
That's what's been going on this whole time. And my biggest struggle today, and I don't know if this is part of what's interesting to you, my biggest struggle today actually is being like really magnified by what's going on right now during COVID time. And that is like, I was made for this moment. Like I was like many entrepreneurs are, I was made for what's going on right now. Like I love being the hero. I love helping other people. As a result, being an agency owner who loves the work so much and loves the people so much and loves being a hero, like all the work that I've done over the past couple of years to reduce my company's reliance on me, like I'm undoing that today because the company is 100% reliant on me. And so like, if you would ask me like, what's one thing that I have a lot of anxiety about, it's that, I was getting to the place where really like I personally was going to reach escape velocity that I had scheduled for the next 6 months, literally to be out of the office at speaking engagements, running workshops, like that's how I make most of my money, selling books, talking, all that kind of stuff, and whatever. That's what I was going to do for the next 6 months. Instead, I dived back into my business and I was like, give me this. And now this is how I'm going to, here's how I'm going to elevate other people through the use of the brand. And as a result, like I am in many ways like unraveling that good work that I've done over the past couple of years. I'm anxious about that, but the good news is like the team is aligned. They're 100% behind me. They're in it with me. I've seen some real superheroes emerge, from people that I didn't even realize like had it in them. And I was like, whoa,
it really shows you. Yeah.
And it also shows me people who are like, they would really like us to get over this and maybe they need to go find another place to work. It has shown me those people too.
Sure.
And it's it's a really, really interesting time. And so like back to what Mark Cuban said, like what you do in this time is going to define you. It's going to define you as a leader. It's going to define you as a brand.
Absolutely. I have a question for you based on all this. I mean, what an amazing story. And thank you for sharing the highs and lows of that line. If you were hypothetically able to use a time machine, because I may have one in Nashua, New Hampshire. You can't use it now because of COVID, but this clears up and you can use it and go back in time to talk to yourself right when you're beginning your career. Maybe you just got out of school and you're about to travel some big city and do your thing. What kind of things would you tell yourself? What would you advise yourself knowing what you know, having done all those things?
So it's so interesting because I almost feel like because I have a 22-year-old college senior who I'm
Yeah.
getting ready to sort of help launch into the world, the things that I'm sharing with her are the things that I would share with myself, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Which she's a musical theater major in college. I think we talked about this when
Yeah.
we first met.
Totally.
And she's incredibly passionate about her work, and she's a super, super talented human and just a really, really hard worker. And my entire life has been around has been about creating a world where she could pursue what she's most passionate about. And so like all the risks that other people see in getting a BFA in fine arts, specifically in musical theater,
Mm-hmm.
I was like, tune all that shit out, right? It's just shit. Like my father, the attorney / engineer, my father, the smartest man I know, he's like, does she have a fallback thing? Is she a double major? Does she have a thing? And like, I find myself being like, you know what? I created a life where she can pursue what she wants. And it's in my power to make sure she pursues her dreams. So like
Right.
with that as the backdrop, if I could get into the time machine and go back, the one thing that I would do would be to look at what I was applying to undergraduate institutions to do and not waste my time trying to be something that I could never be, that wasn't true to me, to please someone else. Like I really thought like if I go pre-med and I become a doctor, then I will have the love and adoration of my father. He will finally be proud of me.
Right.
Right. And that's garbage. It's head trash, right?
Totally. Because
And
even if you did, you'd end up probably hating what you're doing and not being passionate about it, not being successful because you're not in the groove, and probably resenting him for it the whole time too.
right. I just wish that that's what I would go back and rewind. And like I said, I'm fortunate. I have a 22-year-old senior in college who's supposed to graduate next month,
Right.
who I have undone all of the doing I did to myself by passing on that gift to her. And
Sure.
I can actually, okay, so this is a shitty time to graduate with a degree in Broadway. Right. Which is basically what she has a degree in. We joke around. I'm like, yeah, she's got a major in waitressing. It's a shitty time to have a major in waitressing, isn't it?
Right.
However, like, she has a leg up on pursuing her passion because like I learned the lesson from, where I thought that I had to hold myself to a standard that, by the way, my father never said you should become a doctor or I won't be proud of you if you're not a doctor. This was just stories I made up for myself.
Right.
I was my high school valedictorian. I graduated first in my class. I thought I was destined for big things. I thought that there was a standard that I needed to live up to. I needed to go to an Ivy League university or something really damn close to it. I ended up staying in Southern Ohio because my mother was sick with cancer and I wanted to be close by, and she ended up dying 3 years ago. I regret nothing about that.
Right.
Not a thing. I regret nothing about my past, but if I did have the opportunity to like just turn one thing, it might have given me a leg up of about 6 months, but I'm still doing exactly what I'm meant to be doing at this point.
Right. But see, having explained that, now it makes sense when you're describing how, like, when you're doing the dissections, you're like, this is not for me. It's a bigger deal. Like for me, I'm like, yeah, I could do without this. But if you're like, shit, I'm supposed to be a doctor and I don't really like this, what do I do? That would be a little bit more of a traumatic experience. That like, I really want to seek this love. I think I got to go this way, but I really don't want to do this stuff.
Yeah. So like, this is why I didn't want to dissect a cat. This was the cat that tried to climb on the keyboard before.
Yeah.
Like I should have known about myself that I wasn't going to be able to open up a cat.
Right.
Like that I was going to be able to open up a dead cat without its skin that's like pinned to some wax in a pan.
Oh God. Right.
You know what I mean?
Seriously.
And like, this is know yourself, like know yourself.
Totally.
And I think about things like always on my report cards when I was in elementary school, it was like, Deborah talks too much. Deborah finishes her work and then she entertains everybody else and she's a massive distraction. I have created a career out of talking for a living, right?
Yeah.
And so, if I could have been more true to myself, But as a young person, we don't give ourselves permission for that because we don't know that we're allowed to do that. So the best thing that I'm showing my daughter, who is like, a fabulous, amazing human being, the best thing that I'm showing her is like, I'm living my best life. I'm like, I'm just doing it. I put it out there. I give zero fucks. And, I know who my ideal client is. I know who my ideal customer is in life and in business. And I align my values and beliefs with them. The great thing about that is, it's like you said about the secret, like I've been able to attract the right kind of people who have helped me be successful. Could I have a bigger company? Yeah. Like could I like double, triple our revenues? Probably. I don't know if I'd have as much fun doing it.
Yeah. When everything's in alignment, though, it's fun. It doesn't feel like work.
Mm-hmm.
It's like playtime.
Oprah said, and this quote has been going around in my social circles the last couple of weeks, but she said, that you're in the right, that you're in the right career when you'd be willing to do it for free. COVID time has shown me, like, I'm so excited to just give my expertise away generously to other people because it elevates them. I'm like, I'm doing exactly the thing that I should be doing. And you know what? Here's a benefit of that. Like, it's a time, they call it social distancing. It's actually physical distancing. I'm developing more social closeness. I'm a person that I don't do a good job of developing really deep relationships because I'm fast. I like just, I move from one thing to the next. I have met people like you, which I fully intend to keep up with.
Yes.
We're going to see each other at EO events. If I'm on the East Coast, we're going to get together. I want to meet your family. I want to see the rest of that room with the orange wall.
I know, right?
Like our color, solar orange. All of these things. And so, it's a shitty time, but I'm doing it the best way I know how.
Yeah, really. We control the story. We could make it that, I heard this, like, the world is on pause. We can either make the most amazing bit out of it, like, wow, I focused on my health and my family and my relationships and this and that, or
I got prison fit.
Yeah, right. Or I just was miserable and just so sad, and we have to make it what we can.
Mm-hmm, totally. So, we're witnessing history right now. The friends that you make during this time are probably going to be with you forever. I tell my daughter, Hannah, I'm like, you know what, when you're a granny and you have little rugrats, like, running around calling you grandma, you're going to be like, I remember the pandemic. I was 22 years old. I was a senior in college. Like, my life got canceled for, 6 months or a year or whatever. And then here's how I flourished during that time. What children are remembering right now is, like, mom and dad are home. Mm-hmm. And they are with me. I go outside every day and take a hike or like a really hot, fast walk because it got really hot here in Austin recently. And what I see are like some of the scenes of my childhood, which are like kids outside playing catch with their dads. Like this down the street from me is this family, and they have these 3 adorable little blonde children. And every day they're out there, either dad has a stopwatch and he's timing them running around the block, or they're racing on their bikes, and he's cheering them on and stuff like that. I think we've seen sort of a forced return to simpler times. I think that we are seeing like what the meaning of true connection is. We're seeing a shift in our values and stuff like that. And I'm choosing to take the positive side of this and not be overwhelmed by the negative.
100%. I mean, to point about catch, like, I've built into the calendar now, like, 30 minutes before I normally would be home, before dinner is ready, like before all that schedule is happening, 30 minutes. Now I'm like logging off and gonna play catch with my son outside, because now he can expect that. And I don't know, I probably should have done more of that. And I think it's okay too, though, for a week or two, I was kind of in the middle land of, like, I think we were just all grieving, like the loss of all this freedom and all this. So I didn't want to play catch or any of that, but I think I've sort of come out the other end of that tunnel. And now I'm like, yeah, okay, I gotta get exercise one way or the other. I can't go to the gym, but I can try something else. And I gotta play catch. And then I also ordered tap dancing shoes. So my daughter is going to teach me how to do tap dancing, for better
Oh,
or worse.
that's awesome. I'll send you a video. My daughter's an amazing tapper.
That'd be fantastic. Maybe she
Yeah.
has some pointers for me.
So yeah, I think that's all like really, really incredible. And you know, this is a time like all the way back to brands. You know, brands, they show you what you need to know about them, and you are a brand. Like you are a brand as the leader of your family, right? Your family is a brand. Your family has a set of core values and beliefs. Your family attracts to it people who share the values and beliefs that are of the people in that family. Like when you're hanging out with families, you're like, what the hell's wrong with these people, right? Like this. And so like maybe now is a time to like create the family brand. Like create the family brand. List out the family core values, the core purpose, your mission and your vision, create a brand promise, right? And use the principles of branding to like create this incredible, memorable, connecting experience that you wouldn't otherwise have a chance to create. And I need to make sure I'm not supposed to be on a webinar right now.
You probably are. But hey, here, last question for you. Where can people connect with you?
You know what? The easiest way to connect with me is at debgabor.com. Like Irrational Loyalty is there. Branding as Sex is there. Like all these webinars that I've been doing, there's replays of those there. There's ways to get free chapters of books.
Awesome.
There's ways to like book 15 minutes with me. And I will say, like, call me, email me, get on my calendar. I'll talk to anybody. Like clearly, like the 14 hours I've just spent with you.
I know, right? We could go forever, but yeah, we probably have meetings we're all missing, but hey, it's all good, right? Thank you so much for being on here. I really appreciate it.
And I appreciate the opportunity. And I hope that people get some kind of takeaway from this. If nothing else, it's really great for me to like put my own experience into context.
It really is. Yeah. Just to even put words to it and get it out there. And, just real quick for everyone listening, if you learned something from this, and I damn well know you did, because I literally have 2 pages of notes over here and I ran out of space, so I'm in the margins. I know you learned something. So share this with someone else. Be a thought leader to one person, 2 people, 47, 84, 109 people. Just get this to other people's little eyeballs and earballs so they can like learn from this and learn from Deb too. And definitely reach out to her and connect with her as well. So Deb, thank you again. I know we're probably way over time, but it's been a blast.
It has been a blast. Thank you so much. And wash your hands, don't touch your face, all the things.
Wash your hands, don't touch your eyeballs. All right, people, this has been the Hardcore Marketing Show. We will catch you all next time.
All right, a big thank you to today's sponsors. Cheshire Impact, helping marketers and sales win, maximizing the use of Pardot and Salesforce. And a big thank you to Qualified.com, the #1 live chat and chatbot platform for Salesforce and Pardot. Remember the giveaway. If you have Salesforce Pardot and you want a free copy of my book, Marketing Automation Unleashed, then you go over to Qualified.com, engage in a chat, do a demo, and tell them that Casey sent you, and that book will be on its way to your door. All right. We'll see you all in the next one.